Welcome back to the conversation. You know, when you see the Kerimisi, you know it is time for Lagos team. I am not alone. I have the delectable Abimbola here with me.
Okay, I have a title, delectable. Okay.
All right, today on the conversation, we'll be discussing one of the initiatives of Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu that's created to impact the younger generation. We must say, I must say that the governor is intentional about the young people. Abimbola?
Oh yes, Mr. Governor, like we call him Mr. Salable. Everything about young people is one thing he loves to promote. And one of such initiative, of course, is the creation of the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy. And what strikes me about this academy is the leadership that it's in there, building leaders, quality leaders, and of course, when Lagos sneezes, others catch the cold, like we say. Because and them joining the conversation today on taking a look at this, a spotlight on the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy. We have the Executive Secretary of the Academy, a beautiful young lady who is here in the studio with us. And of course, today we have AYISAT.
Yes, Aisha.
Agbaje-Okunade. Thank you for being here on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thank you.
I guess it's because of the way you spell your Aishat. That sometimes it's the Y and not the I. Okay, so it's the Aishat.
My nickname is Ai, so that's why it makes it easy, you know.
Makes it easy. All right, so of course she's here with us on the program today. She'll be taking us through what the Academy is all about, and I do think that the second cohort of the Academy is about to begin, and definitely should also tell us what exactly this is all about. But I think we have to take some inserts. We have some inserts already cut just to give us a preview of what this conversation is all about. We'll be back after this short break.
It is the very first leadership summit of the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy, the Lagos Leadership Summit with the theme Leadership and Nigeria's Future. It was a rare opportunity for youths from all walks of life and from across the country to listen, compare notes, and learn from the wealth of experiences of thought leaders, current leaders, and aspiring ones who seem to want to ditch the democratic system of government for the technocratic system of government. The event, which featured various panels, sessions and fireside chats, signposting the need for emboldening leadership capacities and excelling in the leadership complexities, also had former Governor of Lagos and former Minister of Works Babatunde Fashola talk on ethical leadership, whilst enjoining parents not to delegate their responsibility of teaching their children to other people.
We really advise a lot of you to understand that, look, it's not about the eloquence of speech. It is about the eloquence of action.
Develop yourself. Move with people that will add value to you, not those who take away from you.
For Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, the setting up of the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy is not just about naming the academy after the first civilian governor of Lagos State, but about impacting lives and helping to breed a new set of leaders that will come up with fresh ideas that will not just solve Lagos and Nigerian challenge, but also global challenges.
It's not about the problem that we face. It's about the innovative strategies and the solutions that will bring about to solve the challenges and the problem that we face. And that's why you are here. You are here to think out of the box. You are here to be able to innovate for us. You are here as leaders, not of tomorrow, but today, to help us bring about solutions that government can use as a tool to solve the challenges that we're facing today, but more importantly, to be able to solve global issues. Chief Obafia now gave free education. So it's not about the time we're born, but it's about the life we've impacted. It's about the life that we've impacted. It's about the changes that we've made. And for us as a government, we felt how well can we honor a man than for us in public sector to set up the cream of new leaders that we also would donate and will outlive us.
Governor Sanwo-Olu also revealed that the pioneer fellows of the academy, 30 of them, would be visiting India to see and learn firsthand from a country with similar challenges with Nigeria and how it became one of the most important tech hubs in the world. 2 companies qualified for their impact in their community were awarded 5 million naira each. The event was also an opportunity to open the portal for applications for the next cohort of the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy. Applications are open.
All right, it's still the conversation here on Lagos Television, and what you just saw was from the very first summit of the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy. And of course, we have, I'm going to stick with I. So we have I in the studio this morning. Of course, she's going to tell us more about that particular summit and what the academy really does there. So you had the first summit there. It was targeted at young people. We had Mr. Governor as well as the past governor, Babatunde Raji-Fashola, who was also at that event. Take us through what informed the first summit.
So that's a very interesting question. I think the Minister of Youth also asked me that question. So with our current fellows, we only pick 30 people, 30 exclusive people into the fellowship. And I've always said something that it's a drop in the mighty ocean, but also that drop makes the mighty ocean. But nonetheless, doesn't mean we should stop in reaching out. So we thought that, okay, since the fellowship is exclusive, how else can we push out some of the learnings that our fellows are currently enjoying and push it out to a larger audience? And that's where the summit came in through. So you found that people that spoke at the summit were people that our fellows have also interacted with in the past through fireside chats, you know, through Brown Bag series, and they've also played a role of mentorship in one way or the other. Okay. So we said, okay, how can we also push out some of that information? How can we push it out to the externals? And how can we target the young people that we usually would attract into the fellowship as well? And that was the idea behind that. The idea behind it is that it's not also in just our fellowship that transformation happens. Okay. It's not also in churches that transformation happens, or in mosques that transformation happens. They can happen in rooms with critical thinkers and change agents. They can happen in those rooms. And that was the rooms we wanted. That was the sort of room we envisioned and we wanted to create. Okay. And to also start imbibing the spirit of active citizenship, national integration, leadership into young people. Right. And also just giving them awareness. And you don't even have to be in the fellowship for you to understand these things. We're willing to reach out to you. And there's a sense of governments coming to the people, especially to young people. Because we all know there's a lacuna there, you know, and I think it was also another attempt to, you know, bridge that gap as much as possible, because that makes it interesting. That gives them a 360 sort of narrative, or rather a bird's eye view on what government is doing and how government is doing it, rather as opposed to what they read that is most likely misinformation. Right. You know, and even at the summit, we ensure that also we're trying to also build their level, their professionalism. So we had an etiquette room, poison etiquette room. We had a CV bar, whereby employability bar, whereby you come drop your CV, they advise you on career progressions, and many more with Afara initiative. So, and many more stuff. So we knew that we needed to create a community, and that was just our own version of a small community, but we thought, we hope it was worth the while. Right.
Sorry, Joy, a build up to that. So that summit has been almost 2 weeks. You had the summit.
Yes.
The feedback, how has that feedback been for those who attended or for those who were able to get access to materials that were shared or that were presented during the summit? So what was the feedback like?
Oh, I think that was the icing on the cake for me personally, and I think for also the other committee members, because you know, when the event was happening, you don't really know what's going on because you're a planner. But when people left the event, it was mind-boggling. You know, young people enjoyed it. We saw that young people just want a platform. Right. There's a need for a platform to engage. There's a need for a platform to create these opportunities. And we were doing our review yesterday at the office, and because we had also set up bus stations that could also transport them back and forth. So we set up for about 300, 400 people. And, you know, our different committee members that were at the bus station were like, after the event, they were just so excited. It's not something that the young people are also very familiar with, and our speakers were very selective. Right. They were selective. There are people that they put money where their mouth is. So when they say it, because they've lived it. So we were very selective there. So it was really inspiring because it was an all-day event from 7 a.m. Everybody arrived there from 7 a.m. and we didn't finish till 6:30, and it was still a full room.
Wow.
You know, and over 1,500 young people just seated, wanting to take in some of these things. And like I said, we've seen that it's young people just simply need a platform.
All right, you've told us about the summit, so let's talk about the academy.
Yes.
The Lateef Leadership Academy. Tell us about it. What inspired this? What are the objectives of this academy?
Funny enough, what inspired it? I think Mr. Governor will be the best person to ask. But I'll try. I will attempt to just do justice to his thoughts. So I believe that in setting up the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy, he saw that if you ask most people what would you say the challenge what would be the challenge that Nigerians are facing most? What would you say? So most people would say it's leadership, right? So then you have to ask yourself the question, what are you going to do about it? And that's where he was, not even as a governor, as a human being. What do I do about it? And that's why the Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy was set up. At a certain point, due to experience, you cannot reach older people again. So why not take those that are still able to absorb and also change their perspective and are still flexible with their thoughts. And that was the idea behind it. Really, how can we, because at the end of the day, nobody lives forever. Someone else takes over. So who are we preparing people to take over? Because even in families, in terms of inheritance, there's a succession plan. So why don't we have one in public service? Why don't we have one as a nation? So that's the question, because you have to be intentional, because you find that families, fathers, mothers, they're intentional. They start to take their child to work. Start seeing what I'm doing. So that's the idea. So who then does it for those that are not necessarily their relative? Right. But yet they will still lead. So I say something, young people are 50% of the population, but 100% of the future. You know, so who then passes that on? And I think that's what inspired it for him. Because what's a better legacy than to prepare people? And what's a better legacy than to name it after a man that has shown so much in terms of leadership, so much grace, so much wisdom, so much knowledge. He's put people first. Why not name it after him? Why not bequeath that, you know? Because it could have easily been Sanwo-Olu's Leadership Academy, but he's not even thinking that way.
The name is synonymous with leadership qualities and bequeathing such a future to young people in Lagos. So, I mean, it's a leadership academy, and of course you are the first ES of that academy. Yeah, you are the first ES. So, and since you've been on board, what are the challenges that you've seen dealing with young people? Young people sometimes can also be very heady, and so sometimes it's a mixture of, you know, people from different backgrounds, different thoughts, different ideas.
You're trying to shake the table. Please shake.
I mean, it's about you. So it's about what you, so what have you, what are some of those things that you've learned while being the ES here, because again you are the coordinator here. So what are some of those things that in this period you've seen as very synonymous with young people? Because oftentimes you hear, oh, we want to be part of the process, but we do not have the level playing field. We do not have the opportunity to, our voices are not heard. We cannot be part of change agents. We cannot speak about where we want the future to be. So now that there is a platform, now that, you know, a crop of young people are taking through the leadership mantle.
What am I seeing?
What are you seeing? So what are the things you're dealing with at the moment, harnessing all of the potential that you have here?
Do you know what? I actually think that's a formidable question. I think that's a very good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. And as a young person myself, I'm on the hot seat and I have to stick by my people.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
Know? But also, so I think that's a very good question. And I think that's a very challenging question in itself. Because I don't necessarily just like identifying a problem without a solution. The same way, I don't like giving criticism without a recommendation or a solution to that.
Okay.
So I would just try to give
to be balanced.
Yes, to be balanced. I think the challenge with young people, as of today, I don't think it's a challenge with them per se.
Okay.
I think it's a challenge with maybe those that are much older. I think there's not enough patience. And, and I think ultimately they just require direction.
Okay.
Like everybody else, same way when a child is crawling, it requires direction.
Right.
So why do you think you need to stop that direction because they've grown up? So that's where I think the problem is. When they turn 18, we think that, oh, they're on their own, they're adults. Let them go through the same thing I've gone through. No, actually, why don't you just make their journey a lot easier by guiding them and mentoring them and directing them and taking them through it?
Okay.
Because when we go through things that other people have gone through, our reactions to it is completely different.
Sure.
It's not the same. So why don't we guide them? I think it's the patience. I don't see a lot of patience there. And I think there needs to be patience whereby you are then imbibing the experiences that they've had and imbibing it in them. And I think that's the essence of LGLA to an extent, because they are shadowing commissioners, they are shadowing special advisors. This is what they know already.
Okay.
And they're now telling them, this is what we know. Now, this is how you go about it. Find your own tweaks here
Even
and there.
in the midst of following other people's footsteps.
Yes,
Oh,
find your own tweaks, but just know that this is what one path of it looks like.
Right.
You can definitely always explore another path, but this is what one path looks like. And I think that makes the journey a lot easier. So I think ultimately it's the patience. So even naturally, I do not just have the fellows, as young people fellows, I also have a lot of my staff members that we have in our offices are rather young as well. So it's the same level of management, attentiveness, and because I will want that in return.
Sure.
Right, I would also want to be guided, and I think that I am standing on people on great wings. So why not also? I'm learning to fly, be wings as well, and I think that's how I see it. So I don't necessarily see it as a challenge. I just see it as it's what the fact is, and the way I see most things is what's the fact. Fact is, young people will take over in the future. That's the fact. Everything else is sentiment.
Yeah.
If we put it aside and focus on the fact, we will get to where we need to get to.
Right.
But we are too emotional most times.
Okay.
So, yeah. But I think it's just patience. And I think also young people do need patience to have a little patience. I think, when you have your dreams, you have your goals. You want to get there by all means. You don't
So it takes patience on the part of the youth to be steady.
Yeah.
And win the race.
To know it's not a day race.
And then more patience on the part of the older ones.
Yes.
To also take them by the hand.
Yes.
And allow them to make their mistakes, correct their mistakes,
Yes.
and then fly.
There will be minimal
It's
mistakes.
a journey. Yes. It's a journey for everybody. I think the mistake is that we think that the journey ends. It doesn't. It goes on.
Continues.
It continues.
Okay, so I want you to tell us, how's the journey been ever since the academy started? How's it been?
So it's been a lot. If I'm not trying to milk the word, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of work, because also I think what we're doing is very new, and particularly with the Leadership Summit. I don't think I've seen one ever been done by any government in the States, in Nigeria, or even I don't think I've seen one in West Africa. It's more like NGOs do that as opposed to government itself. So the challenge is there, and I think I think one of the biggest thing is diagnosing. You've identified the problem, but what's the solution to the problem? And you're always having to think creatively to those problems. And also, if you get people together for them to think through, and I think that's what our fellows do perfectly well. Ideas come off the top of their head. And there's a satisfaction that you can't do it all, but just make sure you do your own part and leave it well. So ultimately, I think the journey has been worthy. It's been worthy. It's been purposeful, and I think it's an opportunity I do not take for granted. And I'm very glad to be in this to be in this position, and to also have this platform. So it's an opportunity I do not take for granted at all. But yes, it does come with its challenges. It does come with this. Oh, do I want to get out of bed today? It comes with a lot of that.
Right.
But it's life.
But it keeps you going.
It
keeps you going.
I'm not sure how much it keeps you going, but yeah, maybe not for that 24 hours, but yeah. But that's why you have accountability partners, you have support systems.
Right, so who can always
so they remind you of what is already in your subconscious, why you're doing it. And I think it's always worthy, because if I'm down one day, one fellow has reached out to me that, we need this, we need that. It's a gentle reminder as well to get up and go and just keep going. And support systems.
All right. So while you were talking, you said your cohort is 30,
yes,
if I heard you correctly. So what's the criteria for being a member?
That's good. So it's very straightforward. People don't think so, but it's very straightforward. So you have to be under the age of 25 to 35. You have to be Nigerian. You have to also make sure you have an HND or bachelor's degree of any sort. And also just have either your exemption for NYC or your NYC certificate. That's the basic eligibility criteria. The real journey starts in the application process. But that's how you get in to be part of us. And then the rest, what then speaks for you are your skills, your experience, what experience you've gained. Also because we have several steps to our application process. Right. So
that's how the shortlisting is done.
That's how the shortlisting is done. So I like to, my current cohort, I think I said the other day, I am so confident I have governors in their midst. I have ministers in their midst. I have presidents, if I dare so say so myself, because we do attempt to pick the best of the best and also just journey along with them whilst they're discovering this entire thing. And one thing we agree on is that you might not necessarily know the sort of leader you will be at the end of this program, but you would know the leader you do not want to be. And that is enough for us. So eligibility criteria, like I said, 4 criteria, and maybe 5, because you have to have 2 years working experience, as we rotate you to various ministries along the way during your duration of the fellowship. So it's a 1-year fellowship, fully residential. Yes, fully residential, fully paid. You earn a stipend. Yes.
Fully paid, fully residential. So for the 1 year,
yes,
it's a school.
Fully funded. Yes.
It's
more or less like that. Yes.
It's an academy. So
it's more or less like that. So
right.
Our fellows stay in one accommodation. This helps with our goal of national integration, because they are coming from all over Nigeria, and also those in Lagos and from Lagos. So this helps with national integration. This helps with, remember, the accountability partnership I talked about. So they are also accountability partners for each other. So when they find themselves in those position of leadership, they can lean back on one another when they get to places like those slippery slopes.
Right, where you need somebody to hold on.
Because they would come.
Definitely.
Yeah. Your integrity will be tested.
Well, so while you were speaking now, you mentioned that your fellows are picked from all over Nigeria. So it is not a Lagos thing.
No, not just for Lagos, but yes, we do cover most of Lagos citizens, residents,
Okay.
and as well. So we find that most are Lagos indigents and Lagos residents, but we also open it to over Nigeria, because we do want the best of the best, because we believe everybody has a certain level of capacity that just needs to be enhanced or harnessed for them to get to the next level.
Leadership qualities are rare. Oftentimes people say that, and so for your fellows, who at least you have 30 as we speak,
Yeah.
are those the first?
Yes, this is our first cohort.
Okay, so those are the first flag bearers.
Yes,
from
we are,
LKJ.
yeah,
so of course we'll talk about you opening the second in a bit.
Yeah,
but,
I do want to jump into that.
yes, in a bit.
I can't wait.
You can't wait. All right. I understand that producer has some tracks that he would like for us to take. Let's again listen to these men who probably are mentors to fellows of the academy, and then we'll be back, and then the discussion continues after this short break.
It's often said that leadership and community engagement are critical components in strengthening the social fabric of any society, including Nigeria. Dr. Hamzat, could you please share your perspective on the role of leadership in fostering community engagement, particularly in the context of Lagos State?
I think the question is a bit dry. So a lady asked a question before about children out of school and that what are we supposed to do? And so that goes to community engagement and leadership in our communities. So one of the things that we want to achieve in any engagement is how do we focus in order to achieve our aims. We know that part of the challenges will be there are different needs, but there must be coincidence of wants. So in Lagos State, for example, and I'm not sure if the lady is still here, so education at that primary and secondary school is free. So the challenges has to do with parenting. And I think Dr. Oduwole actually answered the questions very well to say that we are Africans. So part of our challenge is we have sort of westernized a lot of our lives. So when some of us were growing up, our parents have children that were not theirs, okay, and they were raising them. But that seems to have changed. That seems to have changed. But we cannot forget our own history. And somebody, I think, in the earlier audience actually said that we as youths must understand our history. If you don't understand your history, you don't know your background. I don't know if we've seen some of this documentary where people from Trinidad and Tobago, they were actually singing. They were singing about a Yoruba song that their forefathers usually sing, and they don't know the meaning. And it says, nígbà tá wà ní Ìbàdàn, ní Lule, they did not know that Ibadan was actually a town. And that's where they were taken into slavery until they came back. So as Africans, if we don't even understand ourselves, we will be lost. So community engagement for me is how do we make sure that as Africans, we pull everybody together. So the challenge is if in primary school, it is free. In secondary school, it is free. Since
what is your concept of ethical leadership? And I want to throw in something there because I've had the opportunity to read your book. Now, not all of it, but in chapter 11, you spend time telling us as citizens our duties and responsibilities. So if you can also talk about ethical followership from your perspective.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Let me express my word of commendation to the governor, the Deputy Governor, and the government of Lagos State for this great idea. And, of course, express my delight for being invited and for being here. Now, I think that the underpinning rationale and framework around which ethics is discussed is, first of all, morality. What is normative conduct and normative behavior? And, of course, how morals then shape
All right. So you just heard there from the State Deputy Governor, Dr. Kadiri Obafemi Hamzat, and of course the former Governor of Lagos State, Raji Babatunde Fashola. So what informed the choice of your speakers at that event? Because again, looking at it, you were careful about the people you wanted to come address these young people. So what went through your mind that is yours and your colleagues while choosing your speakers?
Yeah. Actually, Mr. Governor also played a role in in even choosing our speakers as well. But I think, if I might also speak for him, I think it's track record.
Okay.
They've shown that they are true to what they speak. And I think that's very important. I wanted people that would shake tables, you know, have those difficult conversations that we don't seem to have. And that was really what Mr. Deputy Governor just touched on in the clip we just saw. You know, we need to begin to have those difficult conversations. We can't shy away from all these things. We can't, in the same way Governor Fashola had said that, we can't also shy, His Excellency said, we cannot also shy away from, you know, speaking about ethical leadership. And I think there was a particular quote that really stayed with me. He said, it's always sweeter with adversity. So the end is always sweeter with adversity. So which means that when you've gone through something, you would evaluate more. It will be sweet. It will be sweet. It will, you know, so that quote really stayed with me. So I think we wanted people that would speak truth to power.
Right.
And I think that was really what kept our audience, you know, that was really what kept people, you know, in waiting for that long. And it was to really have those conversations. And even we had Minister Bosun Tijani, who really delved really so deeply about technology and the impact it has on society.
Right.
And another key thing he said to me, to us at the summit is that if you are looking for negative stuff on social media, that's all you will find. That is all you will find. The algorithms will give you those negative things.
Right.
So if you are one just writing and saying negative stuff about Nigeria, you will stay there. Because the internet knows you probably better than you know yourself.
Right.
You know, and that reality stuck. Because even in that moment, I already had like a aha moment that, listen, the next, whatever summit we do next, there must be how we help young people identify, help them with media literacy. So identify misinformation from actual true information, you know, actual factual information. So we need to help with that. Identify that not everybody that has a phone
is treating about or is
can have the authority
message
to speak. You know, so media literacy is one of the conversations. I picked up media literacy from there. Even me, I'm learning, and it was a learning moment for me. So it was very important to have those that have also experienced those things one way or the other. And Mr. Governor is also currently the governor of Lagos State. He's probably not getting enough sleep. His phone is buzzing. He's, you know, so share those perspectives, because from even that summit, I realized that what I don't tell you about leadership is that work-life balance becomes a myth.
Yeah. It becomes a myth.
Yeah.
Right, and everybody
so
expects that as the leader, you must take all the shame, all the gain.
When they say on easy lies the head that wears the
I
crown.
know.
Yeah, yeah. So it was very, very important to be selective in regards to that. And it was more important. That's why Mr. Governor gave awards to Mrs. Abosede George Ogon, who founded WILLEN, which is Women in Leadership Advancement Network. And then also Mr. Tunde Onokoya, Chess in Slums, you know, who could only join us virtually because of the world record it was breaking. So it was very important to now put a narrative to it where people are not only just thinking it, but they are doing it.
Right.
So now that makes it very pragmatic and very easy to step into those shoes because you've seen it happen. You've seen it work.
Right. Great.
Okay, we're building leaders, right? And then going back to ethical leadership, one thing that I am holding on to is integrity. How well is the academy building on integrity in the leaders that you're building?
Thank you for that, because that brings me back to the academy, which I'm always very excited to talk about. So we have 4 components of the fellowship: leadership, community service, which is capstone project. I'll describe each one of them. We also have the fellowship network, and then we have the work experience. So the leadership development comes with, it's the aspect of mentorship, whereby they are obviously directly mentored by Mr. Governor, and also mentored through, they experience a lot of fireside chats with renowned world speakers. So they've probably had chats with Agimokwede, the Daily Olojede, Miss Bola Adeshola, you know, and so many more that have given them a sort of a bigger view, insight on what the journey is, you know. And people like Dele Olojede was one of the people that literally, when Fela was coming out of prison, he was one of the people that went to pick him up from prison. So people that have seen it all, and then they are telling you that this is the way, this is the solution, this is how it's done, and they've shown that value, that integrity, and they've kept abreast with that. You have people like Mr. Governor, you know, who also has regular fireside chats with them. I mean, even Mr. Deputy Governor, amazing speakers, you know, and that's the aspect of leadership development for us, keeping them at bay with that information. We also have a partnership with ALIWA, which is African Leadership Initiative West Africa. So it's an extension of the Aspen Institute network. So what we've, in the US, so what we've done is we've adopted their curriculum, their leadership curriculum. So our fellows learn about, so it's more theoretical. Our fellows learn about the Martin Luther Kings, the Lula of Brazils, the Machiavellis, you know, and so on and so forth. And Lula of Brazil is always my favorite person because now, after all the situation, he's back to being president of Brazil. So it also helps them, you know, understand that leadership is, yes, leadership is not, it's sometimes, it's gray, it's not black and white. But like Ms. Bola Adeshola says, your being true to yourself is black or white, right? So they have that leadership development aspect of things, and that's, and so we've managed it with a pragmatic approach and also a theoretical approach. And thank God the India trip was mentioned, because our fellows would take one international policy trip every year. So they're going to India. So that also allows them to see that India has similarities with us, but they've been able to surpass it, right? And a popular example is that if you are trying to call to change your flight ticket, just know you're speaking to someone in India, and you're in across somewhere else. So because they've built their tech hub, you know, and yet they have 4 times our population. So why not see how also they've done it? And that gives you a more realistic approach, because everything in our head is still very imaginative, right? Until we see when it's been done. So that helps them to have that idea. So that's the leadership aspect. So we do a lot more. Our fellows just finished micro and macro economics training with Lagos State Business, Lagos Business School, you know, because we also understand that as leaders, if you don't know numbers, you are in for one.
Right. Yeah.
Because numbers speak louder than words. So we do a lot of this training, and this also even get involved in wellness training, mental health. So we do a lot of that in terms of leadership and many more. For the work experience part, which is what I had previously said, is that we rotate them quarterly to various ministries
in
Lagos State. So they shadow the ESCO member and the permanent secretary in that various ministry. And whilst doing that, they also know what it's like to be, you know,
the civil service,
in the public service,
right.
and also what governance means.
Right.
Because when we are on the outside, it's a different perspective.
I know. Inside, so when you see how it really works,
it's a different perspective. You know, right now a lot of people think maybe Nigerian leaders are asleep. They are not. You know, it's
so
a
they
lot.
See firsthand that oftentimes there is no box to think inside.
You have a shift, like an entire perspective shift. And that's what public service does. I think at the summit, someone said, it was BRF. BRF said that if you've not been in public service, you haven't arrived. You've not arrived.
Let's quickly talk about the second cohort, because time is fast spent and we need to go. So second cohort is coming up. Is it 30 as well, or this time do you have more slots?
Well, it's 30. But it might change tomorrow. I don't know. But it's 30. So we are currently recruiting for the next cohort. Our fellows will be done with their 1 year. Our pioneer fellows, they're called the class of pace setters. They'll be done in August. So we are currently preparing for the next set, and applications are currently open. And it's been a journey, because we've gotten a lot of interest, expression of interest so far. And like I said, we are trying to just pick the best out of the best. And even if you don't make it, we're also going to find other opportunities where we avail to them. So it's not over. Yes, it's not over till it's over. Yeah, you know. So we're currently opened, and our website is www.lgla.academy. So if anyone is interested in applying, anyone at home, please apply. So you just go on our website, www.lgla.academy, click apply now, and put in your personal details, ensure you meet the eligibility criteria, and then take it from there. So our application is in 4 stages, and I didn't get to mention that, so I'll quickly run through that. So after eligibility criteria, meeting our eligibility criteria, you've inputted your personal details. The next is a CBT process. So you do a computer-based psychometric aptitude test. And then that's also, if you meet our cutoff mark, you then move to the next step, which is a lot of critical, so you do a critical thinking, essay on critical thinking. So our essay topics really borderline on nation building and leadership. Right. So, and then we have an independent team that would look at that and also shortlist. Then after that, then it's an interview process, and even an interview with Mr. Governor as well. Wow. Yes, before you come in, and that's how. So it's it's seamless.
But it's tensed.
I don't know.
It's serious-minded.
It's serious-minded. You have to be prepared to do the work. And if you go on our website, the first thing it says is that you have to be committed. Like, you have to be committed. And it's intense, because it's like you're doing like 3 masters.
In one.
Because we have to, it's a lot of knowledge, it's a lot of learnings. You know, you're open to a new level of network that you won't necessarily come across. And it's really just preparing them to take up those opportunities and also be attracted to public service. You know, and I can tell you for sure, our 30 that have gone through this, their perspective of public service totally changed.
I'm sure that before August, we probably will also be gracious enough to feature maybe a few of your proteges on the program to tell.
I wanted to do that today, but I wasn't sure. I didn't get that memo.
So we probably just would do
love
that, so
to do
that
that.
at least those at home can also have a feel of what you know they are also going through, and then I'm sure they'll also be able to tell Lagos residents what this is all about and their experience.
Absolutely.
And we hope that we'll have you back here on the stage sometimes again to
I hope so too. I hope so too. But in the meantime, they can also catch us at LJL Academy on Instagram, social media, and also
platforms.
Humans of LGLA, because that page is handled by our fellows, so you see what their day-to-day is. Because again, concept in the mind is always different, but when you see the realistic part, it always helps.
All right. Okay. I'm sure that those watching at home would agree that you're a proud ambassador of LKJA. You've sold your academy very well this morning.
I hope so.
Thank you so much for coming on the program. AYISAT Agbaje-Okunade, Executive Secretary, Lateef Jakande Leadership Academy. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so. Thank you so much for having me. It's
My
an honor.
producer says I should ask you. He's above 40. Can he come?
When there's a criteria already, 25 to 35 is the
You'll go and find Mr. Governor.
All right.